Welcome back to another PYQ for essays. We'll take on the 2021 topic. Your perception of me is a reflection of you. My reaction to you is an awareness of me. It's a pretty deep topic, and I think it's also one which trips most of the students, right? So, this is something that is confusing, and typically, this is also a topic that most people avoid. Okay, so let's figure out first what are the keywords. And clearly, this is talking about something that you perceive about yourself and how you perceive others, right? So, this is everything about interpersonal relationship, right? So, this is the first one I would say. The second one I would say is it says awareness of me. Awareness of me means self awareness, right? My own self awareness, and then reflection of you, self reflection is the other one I would say. And there is a slight difference between self awareness and self reflection. We'll talk about that. And then obviously, this is also about perception and reality. So, what kind of a essay is this? Is this exploratory? Is it argumentative or is it persuasive? If you look closely, this is not describing two opposite poles of anything, right? Although it talks about your perception and my perception, it is overall describing something around how we perceive reality, right? What is our awareness and how that helps in the way we interpret reality. So, in my opinion, this is a little bit of a exploratory essay, and it is actually not that difficult to write now once you understand what are the topics to be explored. So, let's look at it. Let's deep dive into what could be potential arguments for this essay. So I said self awareness and self reflection are two different things. Awareness is how you might respond to a particular emotion, whereas reflection is a critical analysis of who you are. So being self aware is all about, oh, I know that I am an emotional person or I respond this way to that particular stimulus. That sort of awareness. Am I aware about how I might respond to the situations given to me? And reflection is why I do that, right? So that's the difference between awareness and reflection. So the first thing I would write that reality is perceived by the mind, right? So I think how reality is a perception, and it is a perception inside of us, right? I think that's the first thing I would write, that everything that is happening outside of us is literally being understood or being interpreted by our brain, and that is what communicates to us what the reality is. This is our first point. So basically, this also means what we are saying is our understanding is limited by our experience. In the sense that if I haven't understood, I haven't experienced something, then that is outside my realm of understanding. So if we have the same situation perceived by two different people, their interpretations will be extremely different. A good example of this could be Plato's allegory of cave. And I have another video on our YouTube channel describing this. This is a example of how reality is perceived differently based on the conditioning of the mind. So this is the first idea that we're establishing. The second idea that we are going to talk about is that the perception of others mirrors our inner values. Perception of others mirrors our inner value. So basically, how we perceive others is based on our beliefs, our belief system. So, negative perceptions may indicate unresolved personal issues, positive perceptions may be because of our prior positive experiences of situations. So, we are developing a theory which says that reality is perceived by the mind, and mind is basically a sum total of our experiences and learnings. That how we form our belief system. And this belief system is basically responsible for building perceptions or judging others how others are like. So, this is the first 2 points. Then the next point I will make is self awareness leads to better interpersonal communication. So, when you are aware of yourself for your own emotion, you can respond better to others. Self regulation can change how one reacts with others. So, this is our third point, and this is basically the point the uh, topic is making, that your perception of me is basically a reflection of who you are, and my reaction is a reflection of my self awareness. So basically, it is making the point in a subtle way that once we are self aware of ourselves, we can have a great conversation. Then the fourth thing I would say is the feedback loop. There is a feedback loop going between perception and reaction. So, our perception of the reality and our reaction to it, and then reaction leads to a feedback that gives us a perception of reality. So, this is a feedback loop. Once we do something, we see the results, and that makes us believe certain things, which again in turn influences our reaction. So, this is the feedback loop saying that the environment responds to our reaction, giving us some output, and which makes us believe, either reinforce our existing belief system or makes us believe something new, which then again impacts the way we respond, and that is a loop. So this loop, definitely write about it. And then the final thing I would write is external influences, such as society and culture. There could be news and media. You could have family and early conditioning. And you could have language. That's also a huge impact on how we think. And things such as education. So, this is all things that sort of impact our perception of reality. So, I think we start by saying that perception is in the mind. So, it is internal primarily, but eventually, I think you should also say that there are external influences that actually create some perceptions in our mind. A talk in recent days is the role of fake news, for example, in building our perceptions. So these are important things that are relevant in the current landscape that you can bring in into this essay. But I believe stick to the core, which is perception, reality, self-awareness, and reflection, and how it helps the interpersonal communication, and talk about the feedback loop. So I think that's sort of the core five arguments that you can use in this case. There are plenty of examples that you can pepper throughout. Look for studies around perception and reality. I gave you one example of Plato's allegory of cave. The others that you could include are the mirror test. In the mirror test, a mark is put on your face without you knowing, and then you are put in front of a mirror. So if you try to touch and investigate the mark, that means you have an awareness of yourself. This was done by a scientist called Gordon Gallup Jr. Way back in 1970, I think. This sort of is a basic proof that beings and some animals are actually self-aware, and human babies pass this test when they're 18 to 24 months old. So that is basic awareness of themselves and how they perceive the environment. The second thing I'll talk about is Umwelt. Umwelt, I've also covered this in other YouTube videos. Umwelt talks about a organism's subjective environment around it and their understanding of that reality. And you can also take the example of John Paul Sartre. Sartre talked about how that we co-create our perception. So part of it is internal, the other part is actually others' perception of ourselves. So if somebody thinks we are shy or thinks we are good looking, that impacts the way we perceive ourselves also, and then that is the way we respond. So remember the mirror test, Plato's allegory of cave, and Umwelt and Sartre. I think these four examples are more than enough. This is an open topic, and I'm sure you'll find tons of examples. If you look, make sure that they're connected with self awareness and perception, and you'll be home. Definitely join our Telegram channel. We are at t.me/essays with Edukemy, and you will find so many other examples where we do exactly this. We go and we find the core arguments that you need to write for essays. As of this month, we have also launched our fully recorded essays course. It's a 4-week long self-paced course with mixture of recorded and live videos. Definitely join that if you want an in-depth deep dive into essays, and you can find that information on edukemy.com.